Stencils have been around for a while, but there are always new techniques to spice up your soup. Hi, I'm Julie Fei Fan Balzer, and with me is Jenny Barnett Rohrs, who is going to teach us how to make a custom stencil. I am super excited.
It's so much fun when you can take something that you already have in your studio and then customize it and layer it to make something that looks completely new.
Because we're going to make these cards, right? And you said the key is that we're making a stencil plus the part in the middle that you cut out, which is the mask.
Right. So that way you get the layered look. And it isn't just like one thing stuck on top of another. So we're going to start off by stamping. And of course, we're going to pick one that you have that has a beautiful outline that is a closed circle all the way around the perimeter. Does that make sense?
Now, the stamp itself doesn't have to be a circular shape. It's that the image has to be closed in some way.
Right. So like this flower goes all the way around. There's no breaks. There's no open spots. And actually, I'm going to show you right here with this leaf exactly what I'm talking about.
Now, you want to use a nice dark ink, right, when you're stamping. That's important for the machine to be able to recognize it when we're going to cut our stencil.
Exactly. And on nice bright white paper, too. Even though when we stamp, we're going to use some pattern paper.
Cool.
So here we're going to stamp it, and you see how, again, it would have almost that completely closed perimeter except for that little place right there.
Okay.
Black marker fixes it right up.
I love that. So you're further just customizing the supplies you already have and making them work for this technique.
Right, and if there was any little place, like maybe there was a little weird curly cue that would keep it from being that closed perimeter, you would use a white marker, and a paint pen works great, to just kind of erase that so that you get that edge all the way around. Does that make sense?
I love that idea. And I know that you gave me one that because that ink has to dry a little bit before you can put it right into the scanning mat. And I'm gonna go ahead and just load this into the machine. And now I have the options here at the home screen, and I'm gonna choose scan and scan to cut data. And then I'm gonna press the start button, and that is gonna go ahead and scan that. And while that's happening, you're gonna take us to the next step.
Right, so this is all about layering and customizing. So I'm gonna go ahead and stamp this beautiful flower, which I'm going to layer. And here's another good tip. If you find a little fun place on your stamp that is unique, you can create a little dot, and that way you can refer to that same spot over and over when you go to line up your stencils and masks.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Okay, so here you go. So you have your flower down on your pattern paper, and you use that really dark ink, but I notice you're using some embossing powder. So was the ink actually some kind of embossing ink?
Nope, just plain old pigment ink, which stays wet long enough for it to actually grab the embossing powder.
Because the embossing powder only sticks where the ink is.
Right. Exactly, and with a dye-based ink, it wouldn't stick at all. So you need it to be sticky. You could actually even use embossing, like an embossing stamp pad, and then use a colored embossing powder if you wanted to get super fancy.
Here's something that's super cool, which is you're actually using clear embossing powder, so the black ink is popping up through the clear, and that's actually part of the way you know when the embossing powder is all melted. And of course, you're using your heat tool to get that all melted.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so while you're finishing that up, I just want to say we are all scanned over here. Now, I assume from these three options of scanning that I'm actually going to choose the outline scan. Is that correct?
Exactly. You're going to go for the outline perimeter.
So I'm going to choose the outline scan, and then I'm going to go ahead and drag these red arrows in to get nice and tight on my design. And once it's there, I'm going to hit save. And I want to save it into either the computer that's in here or to my USB drive. Which would you prefer?
I think you could save it right into your computer.
Let's save it right into the machine. And it's going to do that and tell me, of course, what the file name is. I love that, actually. Do it once and you got it always. So then I'm ready to hit the home screen and go back because you told me that we're using actually some garbage, right?
Yes, garbage crafting. That's my favorite.
That's kind of all the crafting that I like, is using up everything you have.
Right. So do you ever get those packages and you think, why did they give me all this plastic?
Yes.
So especially that clamshell where you've got maybe the bubble on the front but then it's flat in the back. If you cut that out, it makes a wonderful stencil.
Not the bubble, the flat part.
The flat part, right. Yes. And what you get is this nice thick weight plastic that you can see through. And we like that for stencils and masks because it just makes it so much easier to line up. So we're gonna go ahead and get that ready.
Load that into the machine, and I know we taped it down with a little bit of painter's tape just because it's so heavy, we wanted to make sure it stayed put.
Right. So, and in my experience, you have to make sure that your blade depth is a little bit bumped up, so like an 8, and then the pressure you're gonna take all the way to 9.
Okay, so first I just wanted to say I went into my screen and I just chose the design that we had already done from the saved data.
Right.
And I can see it right here, and I'm gonna drag it so that it's going to be right where I want it.
Right where your plastic is
right where my
already on.
plastic is already on there. And now you were talking about the pressure, and I'm gonna go into the tools setting here, and I'm gonna scroll through so that I see my pressure. Now my cup pressure happens to be at 3, which is not high enough. You recommended we set it all the way up, right? We're gonna go all the way to 9.
It goes to 11, but it only goes to 9, so that's where we're gonna take it.
So we're gonna hit OK, and now I know my cup pressure's up, and I can see that my blade depth right here is set to an 8.
Yes.
And again, you wanna practice and test and see what's gonna work for you and your machine.
And how thick your plastic is, because you just never know.
You never know. So then I'm gonna hit OK, and I don't think there's any standard weight of clamshell plastic. So we're gonna cut. I'm gonna press the start button, and I know that while that is cutting, you actually have one that is already cut, so we can get started and not have to wait at all. And I like absolutely
that
no
waiting.
delayed gratification. We get to do it right away.
Right, so remember I told you I found that little funky leaf in my flower to help me line things up? Well, here it is on my stencil, and so what I'm gonna do is lay my stencil on top, and now it's perfectly lined up. And now I'm gonna use these soft chalks. And the reason why I like to use that embossing is it just keeps the image nice and crisp against the pattern paper, one, and then also because the chalk is, you know, kind of milky, it keeps that image nice and bright for you. Isn't that pretty? It's just so much
it's
fun.
gorgeous.
And you can actually add the chalk in off the edge and just kind of like scoop it into the inside area. And it's just so fast. If I had to sit here with a little teeny weeny Q-tip, I never would do it. It wouldn't get done.
You're a quick crafter. So look how neatly that has been done with no time at all because of that custom stencil.
Exactly.
So what's the next step?
So the next step is to go ahead and move to our next stamp. And what we want to do is go ahead, I'm gonna use, now this was the inside, and I used manila.
Right, so that's the mask area.
Here's the mask, and I'm gonna line it up just like so. And I might use a little bit of washi tape because I have so much washi tape, right?
Me too. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
and it's great because it releases very easily so that you never worry that you're gonna rip your paper.
So now I'm gonna ink up again, and I'm going back to my pretty leaf, and I'm gonna go just like so and give it a nice image. Now, I'm not gonna bother to emboss this. You could if you felt like it, but this is where you wanna use, again, the stencil part, because I want to go ahead and color it in, but I don't want to get it everywhere. So I'm going to layer it back on top. Now notice I've got like 3 layers going here.
You do.
And again, a little bit of masking tape or washi tape will help out. And then we're just going to go ahead and do the same process right on top.
So this is the one that we just cut. It's just that you're using one that you already had. It's the same image.
Well, you said you did not like to wait. So, honey, I am making sure we do not wait.
I never like to have any delayed gratification. I'm a right away kind of crafter.
Right now. So then you can pull off your stencil, and you can pull off your mask.
And the mask does its job. It masks that area so that we were able to stamp and to stencil through it with no problem, never entering that flower area.
Right.
How
So,
fantastic.
yeah, I mean, I think it gives it a nice layered look. It actually makes it look like it's more a part of the paper, but you get that custom look. And now, just because I like to add a little bit extra, a little white gel pen right in the middle to help the image
Really just helps it all spark up. So basically you can take any stamp you have already in your stash, turn it into a custom stencil and mask, and make these wonderful layered cards that you've brought with you.